Well, here we are. On Planet Zimos. My sister lives up here. Shit. There we are. This is how it plays. Come on. Hey, Papa. Hey, Glenn. You know, come on. We'll go to over here. I'm the president, so I get to fuck wherever I want. Let's fuck at this park here. Done. Good. Okay, press play. A blunt yo.
The city. Take me. She seems to be speaking to Garrett, but he isn't paying attention. I agree for him and beg her to take a seat away from me. I try not to be rude about it, but the smell of her is horrible. It is like a month-old rotting flesh on a 100-degree day. Thankfully, she moves away from me and takes a seat near the front. Garrett gets up to his feet and walks over to her.
13 years old.
I see him talking quietly to her for a minute. And then he nods, and she nods back at him. Then, he walks to the front of the bus and begins to speak to us again.
Goddamn watch this, Glenn.
The bus is flying backwards.
My granny.
And I can't understand how he is walking around and standing there with the constant jostling
Love
movement.
you, Glenn. Love you too.
Garrett. Okay, everyone. It looks like we have a guest with us for our trip into the city. She's going to be our guide, and says she can get those trees out of the way for us. So let's be nice to this, the lady who's going to help us out, alright? He smiles broadly at me, and I look back to see Ted and Wayne are sitting there with wide eyes, staring alternately out the window at the horde of shadow creatures that we have just barely escaped, and at the woman in black who is now humming an off-key tune from where she sits. I suddenly get the feeling that they were not aware of the potential horrors we would be facing here. The sickening smell of the woman in black is now permeating the bus, making everything stink like death and rotting flesh. The soft, off-key humming continues, and I grow more and more terrified with every passing second that she remains in the bus with us. Whatever that woman is, she is not going into the city to help anyone. I am completely certain of that.
Have not born.
Host Plus has been named Super Ratings Super Fund of the Year. That's a plus.
Quit smoking for good with help from the Nicorette range. Available for a great price every day at Chemist Warehouse.
Hey everybody, it's me again. I won't take too much of your time before getting to the next part of the mystery emails. I'm still hopeful that my cousin Carrie is okay. But I've read through these next few parts, and things definitely start sounding more and more dangerous with the dead woman aboard the Magic Tour bus. Despite my constant phone calls and persistent internet searches, I'm no closer to finding her than when I first started posting these. But I can still hold out hope that maybe somehow this will help. Maybe someone will see this and will know what the hell is going on. The Observers. First draft. May 2020. The smell of decay emanating from the woman sitting in front of us is overwhelming. And Ramon and I quickly stand up and change seats to get away from it, moving towards the front of the bus to sit closer to Carrie and Garrett. He had said that he wanted privacy for the early stages of this trip, so that he could calibrate equipment as necessary and make any adjustments that were needed. But he seems to be doing nothing except sitting and talking to Carrie, his lab assistant. Any adjustments are being made by her, using a large tablet device she is holding. The bus controls are also voice operated, as we witnessed earlier. We walk up the aisle of the bus as it glides quickly down the road on its immaculate suspension system. The lack of bumps and
Love you
jostling,
too.
despite the rough terrain, is surreal. It's the next thing I plan to ask Garrett about. Woman in black.
My
You
dog
shouldn't trust him,
Hulk
you know. He isn't
Oh, no,
who
baby.
he says he is.
My
Ramon and I look back at the woman in black, seeing again the worms crawling in and out of her face through the sheer black veil she is wearing. I realize what the smell reminds me of suddenly. My family owns a cabin. It's just a little shack in the woods, but it sits at the end of a peninsula which we have all to ourselves.
By the way.
So it's quite
He's
pleasant and
going
peaceful
good.
up there.
He's at school right now.
One year I went up and
That's good,
discovered
sis.
a horrible stink permeating the place. We couldn't figure out what it was, despite our efforts to discover the source of it. By the second day, we were desperate, searching everywhere to find what rotten food someone had left behind, or what could possibly cause such an odor. And then we found it, hiding in the bottom of a steel bucket in the corner of the kitchen, deep in the shadows beneath the counter. A mouse had fallen in and died, unable to escape, and his corpse had begun to rot. I realized then what the smell was, and why it was such a relief to finally get away from the sickly sweetness of it. It was the stink of death. That is what the odor wafting from the woman in black reminds me of. Only 100 times worse. After a quick look back, we continued towards the front of the bus, unsure what to say or how to respond to her. Garrett,
I'm not born.
don't talk to her. It's better if we just ignore her. Clearly she has some supernatural abilities if she was able to override our security systems and come aboard the bus. Nazir. It would appear that way. She said not to trust you, that you aren't who you say you are. Is there anything to that? Since she's got these supernatural abilities, maybe she can sense things that we aren't able to discern. I'm sure my lab assistant and other colleagues can vouch for my identity. She is clearly not a good being, whatever she is. Hence why my instructions were to resist the urge to speak to her, or to listen to anything she says. Carrie, we are making good progress on our return trajectory. If all goes well, we should be on target to reach the city with only a 4.5-hour time dilation. Nazir, time dilation? What does that mean exactly? Garrett shoots Carrie a look, and she turns red in the face for a second, as if caught in a lie. Garrett, just means we're delayed slightly, so we'll need to adjust our schedule, that's all. Nazir, I see. Now, I was wondering if it would be alright if I ask you a few more questions, since we seem to have a bit of time on our hands right now. Sure, why not? Go right ahead. Regarding these other expeditions you've made into these parallel worlds, what exactly have you seen? How do you know it's safe before you go through? If there are infinite dimensions, I would assume that the majority of them are not inhabitable. You would think that, but you would be wrong. As I said before, each time we go through, we find that the version of Earth on the other side is just as welcoming and nurturing of human life as it is in our world. Regardless, we run a number of calculations before venturing through. The bus is so sophisticated that it will stop on a dime practically and go into reverse if it detects that the world being entered is not suitable. But that hasn't happened yet. Maybe we've just gotten lucky so far. On the inside, I am an emotional wreck. But the journalist in me is insisting that this is a once-in-a-lifetime story. So I catch myself acting like this is just another interview, even though it's anything but. Maybe I'm just trying to distract myself from the surreal facts which surround me. The dead woman sitting on the bus 5 rows back, the horde of shadow people following us, the trees in the forest, and the fact that they are alive and watching us, clearly capable of intelligent thought and locomotion. Not to mention, we're in a different dimension. That's a weird one to wrap my head around. Nazir, are you excited? Now that this project is finally going to see the light of day? After all your years of hard work?
Oh, good.
Garrett. Excited is perhaps not the best word for it. I feel justified in a way. Like all of the money and effort I put into this has not been in vain. That would be difficult, if not impossible, for me to wrap my head around. Woman in black. There is a secret way through the trees here if you wish to take it. To bring us to the city faster. To them. Her voice is dry and empty, but impossible to ignore. I know they will listen to her somehow before they say anything. It is imperative that they make up the lost time, I realize with increasing alarm. The time dilation comment, and the way Garrett looked at Carrie when she mentioned it, makes that obvious. Garrett, I see no road intersecting this one. Are you sure? Woman in black. Slow down. I will show you. She stands up, and I see maggots and worms fall to the ground like crumbs from the lap of a sloppy eater. Only these crumbs lay in the aisle and all over the floor, squirming. Her steps are slow and purposeful as she approaches the front of the bus, and the smell of her overwhelms me once again. I see her wave her hand, and the door at the front opens up again, and Garrett calls for the driver to stop. The woman gets off the bus, and as she stands by the side of the road, I see the vegetation around her die immediately as she approaches it. The grass turns yellow, then brown, then black. The trees begin to wither and deform, and they shrink back from her in fear. Her bony hands make hypnotic dancing motions that make my eyelids heavy to look at. And the
Pause it. Talking out cat for a second. If you're curious what's that way, nothing pretty much. So yeah. 3, 2, 1, and action.
grass and dead leaves open up to reveal a dirt road which had been covered over by growth. Beneath her veil, I can see her smiling at the death and destruction she has wrought. Outside the bus, everything now appears dead and rotten, and I am suddenly much more afraid to be near this woman. If she can do that to grass and trees with just her presence, what is she doing to us by being near us? I get the feeling that smelling her body odor was about 1,000,000 times worse than any second-hand smoke. Looking at Ramon, I can tell he's having the same thought. He lifts his shirt over his face to cover his nose, and his eyes are full of fear and tears. Ramon, what is she? The woman joins us on the bus again, and the dead smell follows her. She sits down slightly closer to us this time, and I hate her for it. Within a few minutes, I find myself standing up and going to the back of the bus to try and get away from the stink, despite the fact that I also don't like being around Ted and Wayne. At the very back of the bus, I find myself relieved to be in somewhat fresher air, and I turn on the little fan above me, wishing that I could open a window. I close my eyes and try to think of the outdoors on Earth. Following the right turn onto the road the witch woman had uncovered, we begin gradually leaving the depths of the forest. Occasional glades and fields come into view, and eventually we are free from the constant shroud of shadow that accompanied the woods. Garrett. Finally out of the forest. If my calculations are correct, the road which intersects this one will take us to the city. Whatever version of that we find here will be interesting to see. He seems oddly unbothered by the smell. Despite my concerns, I feel powerless to stop our progress as the bus makes its way towards the road that will take us into this dark dimension's capital. I look out the back of the window and see in the distance the forest disappearing behind us. Like a colony of ants, the shadow people emerge and pour out of the trees, pursuing us. No matter how fast we are, they are just behind us, on our heels, like our very own shadows. Like our very own shadows. The emails are still coming in. Here's the next part of the strange voyage of the magic tour bus. I'm holding out hope that one of these will tell me something about what happened to my cousin Carrie. Please don't judge her too harshly based on this post. She's not usually like this. At least, she wasn't before. Anyways, here goes. The Observers. Draft. May 2020. As the forest disappears in the distance behind us, I try to build up the courage to talk to Garrett again. Like I said before, asking tough questions is the hardest part of being a reporter. But I have a feeling, and I want to follow up on it. Need to follow up on it. Ramon sees me squirming in my seat like a little kid, as I debate whether to go through with it. Ramon, you need to take a dump or something, boss? Nazir, I wish. There's something not sitting right with me. And it's not those MREs he's been feeding us. This doesn't all add up. I stand up and start moving, making my way past the deathly sweet stink of the dead woman. I take a seat across the aisle from Garrett and Carrie. Ramon follows behind, skirting around the dead woman as widely as possible. Nazir, there's one thing I don't understand about all of this. Garrett. Just one? Okay, one major thing. A bunch of other stuff too, obviously. But here it is. If we're basing all of this on the famous Schrodinger's cat experiment, only reversed, doesn't that mean that the bus would need some deadly hazard inside? Like the decaying isotope in the original experiment? How is this working if there isn't a 50-50 chance of death upon entering the bus? I mean, that's the whole point, right? Garrett whispers something to Carrie, and I feel my heart skip a beat. Why do I feel so utterly full of dread? Garrett. Well, the thing is, he stumbles over his words, and I realize this is the first time since I met him that he doesn't appear overly confident and disarming with his speech. He pauses, and seems to be having trouble figuring out what to say. Okay, don't get mad. I mean, I'm sure you're going to be, but just remember, it's done now, and you're both okay, so no harm done, right? Nazir, I still don't understand. What are you talking about? Well, like you said yourself, the experiment doesn't work unless you're 50-50, dead or alive. You're saying this bus is actually a Schrodinger's box? A 50-50 game of Russian roulette? I'm saying you're alive, but there was a chance. A 50% chance you would have died when that door closed back in the garage. There's a mechanism built into the bus. It would have been quick and painless, I assure you. That's attempted murder. Hardly. I told you the risks before we got on the bus. You agreed to everything. You waived all rights to pursue legal action following this, just so you're aware. I don't care what the hell that contract said. You're bringing us back right now. This is insane. Ramon is yelling at him as well. And when Garrett turns around and tells him to sit down and shut up, Ramon loses it. He lunges at Garrett and attacks him. I see Ted and Wayne have appeared, seemingly from thin air, and understand why Garrett was taking so long to explain everything. It was his way of giving them time to approach quietly from behind us. Wayne grabs me from behind, and Ted goes to pull Ramon away from Garrett before he can hurt him. But it's too late. Ramon slips away, and I can see his hands are going for the CEO's neck. But instead of choking the man, he falls tumbling forward off balance. Garrett's body flickers and comes into focus again, with Ramon's arms through his neck, as if he were a phantom. Suddenly, I understand. The son of a bitch isn't there at all. He's just a projection. His image is an extremely well-rendered hologram, probably ever since we stepped into the bus, or even before that. This is just a digital body double, a very well-rendered one. I hadn't been able to detect the difference this entire time. I look at Carrie in disbelief. Clearly Ted and Wayne are real, which explains why they winced when the bus door closed back in the garage. They knew that it was possible they could die in that second. But I wasn't sure about her. Was she just a hologram as well? She touched my arm as if she had read my mind. Unlike her boss, she was there for real. Carrie, I'm here. We're in this together, okay? I'm still in shock, and for a few seconds unable to speak. The fact that Garrett has tricked us into coming here under false pretenses, and that we nearly died is almost too much to contemplate. All I wanted to do is go back home. The hell we are. You knew what the risks were. You knew what you were signing up for. We didn't even have time to read those damn contracts, and you both knew it. I'm sorry, but what's done is done. Let's finish out this trip and go back. The article you write about this and the photos that your colleague is taking will make you rich and famous. I can guarantee it. You think we care about that? We just want to go home. We've had enough of this freak show. Your boss almost got us killed, and we're not going to just forget about that like it didn't happen. Her face suddenly becomes cold, and I realize she is not on our side at all. We are merely observers on this experiment, and she tells us that a second later. You are not to disrupt this endeavor, understand? Once we return home, you will be able to contact whatever law enforcement you wish, and can press whatever charges you like. Good luck finding something in the penal code that covers this, though. That's all I'm saying. Ted and Wayne drag us back to the rear of the bus, and beneath the veil, I can see the woman in black smiling with her rotten teeth and worm companions poking from the holes in her face where dimples would be. A woman in black. I told you he wasn't who he said he was. Smoke and mirrors. Ones and zeros. The fact that her disturbing features are partially hidden by her black veil make them somehow even more terrifying. I feel my heartbeat quicken with fear every time I look in her direction. After dragging us against our will to the back of the bus, the two men separate us and put us in the window seats on either side of the aisle. Ted, whose face I find more and more obnoxious with each passing second, is blocking me into my seat now at the back of the bus as I type up these notes. Time is passing steadily, and I see we've been driving all day. The sky is beginning to you sometimes see reflected in the clouds when driving towards a metropolis on the highway.
You know.
Only this glow is in reverse, like a giant bruise on the already dark sky above. Judging by the size of the glowing reflection in the clouds, it would appear that the city, if that is what it is, we are approaching, is quite massive.
Well, what's your butt now?
After several hours riding in awkward silence, the vague outlines of shadowy buildings come into view. The city stretches out in front of us, like Manhattan, impressive and looming. Driving towards it takes forever, as it gradually comes into focus. The world around us is dark, but we are plunged into total darkness as the town envelops us. Garrett. Night vision. Suddenly, the windows of the bus are illuminated with different shades of green, and we can see figures lining the road on either side of us. They are standing. Giant letters are illuminated in green through the night vision technology. The building has a huge sign which blinks on and off, beckoning us closer. It is a skyscraper larger than any I have ever seen before. The blinking sign mocks me as I stare at it, and Gary turns around and smiles when he sees the expression on my face. Proteon Corporation. It reads, Garrett. Told you we made contact.
Get the power of Tyre Power's Mega May sale.
With mega savings on a range of Falcon all-terrain tyres, buy 3 and get 1 free.
This looks like it might be the last email from Nazir, or whoever the hell was sending these. I'm no closer to finding Carrie after all of this, but it does potentially answer the question of where she has disappeared to. At this rate, I don't know if I'll ever see her again. She wanted to devote her life to science. Well, it would appear that is what she has done, even if it's not the most wholesome science. Quite the opposite, in fact. I know she wanted to change the world. It looks like she got her wish. But I really wish she decided to change it for the better. The observers. First, we are swallowed up by the enormous black building, and the sign atop reading Proteon. As the bus drives further into the underground garage, I see that the place is bustling with activity. There are thousands of shadow people moving to and fro, performing various functions. Talking to Garrett is difficult from the back of the bus. I raise my voice so that he can hear me. What the hell is this place, Garrett? Why did you bring us here? This is the headquarters of Proteon Corporation, my friends. I don't understand. I thought that's where we came from. But this is the mirror image of it. The opposite of our world of light. This is the Shadow Realm. The Forest of Decay separates the two. The forest will not let you leave once you enter it, if you try to cross over to the other realm. Unless, of course, you are able to obtain assistance. Woman in black. Assistance at a price. Everything with a price.
Done.
Garrett. Of course. Can't forget that. The toll. Nazir. And what exactly is the cost for this voyage to the other side? My mouth is dry as I ask the question. I already know the answer before he says it. All in good time, my friend. All in good time. Here's the elevator. The bus drives into an enormous elevator. And after the doors close behind us, I feel it rising up. Finally, after a few minutes, we reach the top floor, and the door opens up again in front of us. The bus exits the giant elevator, and I see we are in a huge room with windows on all sides. We are on the top floor of Proteon headquarters. Alright, everybody off the bus. My heart begins to pound faster and faster. Without the night vision windows on the bus, everything will be pitch black and terrifying out there. Terranwyn pulls us to our feet, and we are shoved out the door at the front of the bus. Darkness envelops us,
How long
and
are
I
you
can see
here
nothing.
for, brother?
Even my hand in front of my face
I
doesn't
don't know.
register.
Depends, really.
Terranwyn are even sounding scared,
Fair enough.
and I realize they have never done
Can
this
I
before.
stay at your place?
They have never been to this place of
Sure
shadow
thing.
and infinite
You can
darkness.
sleep in my room with me.
Garrett's voice booms from above us, and I feel disoriented immediately, having no idea where he is standing. Is it the real Garrett, or the hologram? He answers my question when he appears in front of me, illuminated by blue light, which seems to radiate from inside him. He floats over to me on the air itself, and I see his eyes are glowing intensely as he stares at me. Why do you look so scared, Nazir? Are you afraid that your interview will never see the light of day? That it will die in this world of shadow? In the eerie blue light, I can see that if he was once a man, he is no longer that. This is something else entirely now. The hologram is gone. A creature hovers in the air, half human and half dark necromantic sorcerer, born of black magic and twisted science. You tried so hard to keep up, to write your articles as all the madness occurred around us. And yet, here you are, at the end. And despite all your hard work, nothing to show for it. No Pulitzer, no publication. But hey, I'm feeling generous. I'll tell you what, I'll let you have your article. Carrie can bring it back to Earth with her. I can't go back there now, no matter what I've become. But Carrie will. Won't you, dear? I can barely see her not in the dim blue light cast by the eerie glow of the CEO's internal power source. Carrie, whatever you wish. It doesn't matter anymore what happens in that realm. We can recruit from others. Where do you want me to send it? Newsweek? Time magazine? Garrett. Somewhere less noticeable. Just in case we need to go back there for some reason. I'm feeling generous. I'll tell you what. I'll let you have your article. Somewhere less noticeable. Just in case we need to go back there for some reason. You can decide. Carrie. I have a cousin who likes to post on Reddit no sleep. I can send it to him. It'll probably just die in you. Perfect. Go ahead, Nazir. Finish typing it up, and we'll be sure to send it back with her. Any more questions you'd like to ask before she leaves? What will happen to us? What is he going to do to us? Carrie.
Buddy.
I'd prefer not to know.
Yeah.
Well. Let's do this. Put your hair.